It's now time for the teams to come up with some creative ideas and a strategy to get people out voting. There's a lot of debate, some brainstorming, and Helen is on the phone.
Hiya, my name's Helen. I'm just after a bit of info about some events that are coming up in Coventry between now and June. I was just wondering if you could just give me any info that you had at all.
The Red Stripes are looking organised. They've even got a flip chart.
So the leaflet idea has just come across as it's not working. So taking some time to get into social media, Facebook particularly, is what the young people are talking about.
Back at Ransford ward, Helen is still on the phone.
Yeah, and you want to know details of events?
Yeah.
The Red Stripes have divided the troops and have sent Alison and Rosalind on a canvassing offensive on the streets of Coventry.
And do you vote for local councillors as well as like the main national?
No, I just do the main national vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why you don't do the local councillors?
Well, just it's not really high on the agenda, really.
But have their efforts been worth it?
It's been good to actually come out just now because the people we had in the discussion groups this morning are obviously interested in politics, whereas the ones I've just had now aren't actually interested in politics. So there's nothing electoral services could do. It's more of a politicians issue. So we've seen the two angles by actually coming out for this half hour, so it's definitely been worth doing.
Meanwhile, the anarchic stars are still indoors.
I think solution to be there. These are the solution.
They've had nearly 2 hours now, based in a community centre, throwing around ideas, brainstorming, trying to get some degree of structure around what they're talking about, but it doesn't really feel as if they're quite focused at the moment. And I would have expected them to make use of the fact that they're surrounded by local residents just to test some of those ideas. They've chosen not to do that. They're running out of time at the moment.
The teams return to their base, and the next stage of the challenge is to come up with a winning presentation that will get the people of Coventry out voting. But the stresses of the day are starting to show, and while leader Naheed looks like she may be losing control, some team members are starting to get bossy.
Anthony, can you design this? Okay, I just think that's really boring, but that might be what we can only do.
We have half an hour, but it's been a bit tight.
If you guys can try and do something visually for us.
Let's just get the work done.
Time is up, and it's now up to our two teams to impress a panel of high-ranking hotshots, including Coventry City Council's Chief Executive, Martin Reeves, and Julie Towers, who has a keen interest in spotting leadership in local government. First on the floor are the Red Stripes.
We think you should start collecting email data now in all services and all council systems, so that when individual registration comes out and new schemes, you're ready to start using email as a way of prompting registration, prompting voting.
We've also really want to engage with the key employers in Coventry, the council being one of them, and we would like the council to become a beacon to really start reaching out to its employees and potentially including some form of literature in their pay slips, because we know that people do check the pay slips and read what's attached to them, tell them when the elections are happening and how to register and just general information.
But our panel of judges are no pushovers. With their heavyweight credentials, they're not afraid to challenge our contestants.
What is it that you want us to convince us that these ideas will engage with those people in the streets? Not the folk, because they're the people who've got to turn out to vote in the end if you're going to meet this target.
I think it's part of an overall strategy, isn't it? I think it's hard to look at every single one in isolation. So, for example, if we take the area that I'm talking about a youth mayor process and engaging people in elections at an age of 11 years old, I think if you start engaging with people in the right way at that age through to 17, where they're kind of familiar with the process, they understand what voting is and why it's important, why it's a privilege that not everyone has in this world. I think if you get it right there, then in 20 years' time when you're doing the local government challenge, you'll probably meet people on the streets of Coventry that we met today that won't be saying those things.
Next, it's the Anarchic Stars, with Helen and Rachel leading the presentation.
Lovely. Our What's the Point campaign is really designed to answer that question that people are asking. What's the point? What's the point of turning up to the polling booth? What's the point of caring about voting? We're going to do that through a communications campaign that involves some posters, basically asking the question, what's the point? Raising the issues that local people bring up, from potholes to affordable housing to whatever the issues on the agenda might be, to kind of really bring home to people that this is something that affects them, is relevant to them and needs to be important to them.
Actually, we rang up Coventry Direct today, and I put on hold, and it was a nice little tune. I was like, ideal, you could actually, instead of have that tune, have actually some audio about what the voting's about, when, and that message again, what's the point, can I, when I, what I.
But how will the rest of the team respond to the tough-talking panel, who want answers to some very important questions?
Can I just say, I love the fact that you've really focused on hearts, not heads. And I love the sort of viral approach, really, really well thought through. It was nice to see thinking about people rather than process. So well done on that. Just interesting, you talked about achieving a 10% increase, which is, I think, really unambitious. So what would you have done had the target been much higher?
We actually thought about 30 to 50%, but we were working on a short-term project, and we looked at the reality. We wanted to set a target that was achievable in a start.
One of the things we don't do very well in the curriculum in this country is about a real consciousness for our young people about where we've come from. This seems to compare it to the American model, compare it to the Scandinavian model, who basically children would understand the issues around democracy, where it came about, and they would understand from an early age what's the role of parents, carers, guardians, in order to instill, when they're asked the question, what's the point, mum, what's the point, nan, or wherever it is, what are they going to say, and how are we going to get at those people?
It's to try and make a link between schools, citizenship, and young people, the parents, and as early as primary schools. So if we get the kids trying to do things like decide how they think a polling booth or polling box should look like, it's part of their schoolwork. But what happens is they then have the opportunity to bring the parents and the grandparents and other family members and neighbors over, because it's all community-based. When these kids have an input into how the polling booth or the polling station looks like, then it's an incentive for the parents to come and see the work that their children have done. And I think that community spirit begins to build and people take an interest in the whole political debate.
OK, you started this less than 24 hours ago. You've had a very long day. Thank you so much for being so bright and lively, all 5 of you, at this time of the afternoon. And for the moment, that's it. Thank you very much indeed.